Judge,
Well, be seated.
may I use the restroom?
Yes, go ahead. All right, what's the nature of the objection, Mr. Belenkus?
Judge, he's testifying, he's talking about an event with regards to Mr. Morris. It's clearly hearsay, and I'm not sure what the relevance is.
Yeah, nor am I. Let's see if Mr. Shellhorn can explain it.
Judge, George Morris was given a lifetime ban, that was the nature of the next question, was given a lifetime ban by Safe Sport on August 5th, 2019, which obviously is just 2 short days before the shooting. As
What was the ban for?
I do not intend to elicit that, Judge, for prejudicial reasons, but it was for sexual misconduct. I think it certainly is relevant, but I was not intending to elicit that again because on balance, I recognize that that could be prejudicial.
I don't see the relevance of someone else being bored.
Well, if it's Mr. Barisone's, what's the relationship between Mr. Barisone and this individual, Mr. Morris?
Mr. Morris is essentially one of his mentors and someone that he looked up to as a leader and a paradigm of horsemanship in the community his entire career, to the point where he would go and watch Mr. Morris coaching and training, even though they were in different disciplines, so that he could learn how to be a better coach and trainer. Obviously, the fact that that person who he looked up to so closely was given a lifetime ban from the sport 2 days before, with all the other testimony that we've heard.
Well, is there information that Mr. Barisone knew about that lifetime ban prior to August 7th, at the time it was handed down on the 5th or 6th?
He did, he spoke to him, Judge. He spoke to him on August 5th, 2019, so he spoke to him the same
And
day.
how do you know that?
Ms. Gray talked to him about that, and the defendant told that to her, as well as having, I believe, those conversations with Mr. Harden.
Judge, if I may, what the prosecutor is going to try to do, and I have a transcript of an interview with Mr. Morris, is that my client called him, I believe, on the 5th, and basically, after hearing about the ban, according to Mr. Morris, said that Michael expressed his condolences, said he was sorry. The investigator for the prosecutor's office then starts questioning Mr. Morris with regards to his ban. Mr. Morris is telling the investigator, not Michael Barisone, that Safe Sport is being used as a weapon, people have killed themselves over it, it's a horrible, body, and basically, he says to the investigator, it ruined my life. And then the investigator interjects to Mr. Morris, not Mr. Barisone, well, do you know that Lauren Kanarek was going to turn Michael Barisone into Safe Sport? And Mr. Morris says, and I quote, words to the effect, that would have destroyed his life. There is nothing to indicate that that statement was ever made to Michael Barisone. There's nothing to indicate that they talked about that. All the prosecutor has is a transcript of their conversation with Mr. Morris, where he renders an opinion in his mind after going through what he did, which, again, was a horrific story, as to what effect that would have on Michael Barisone. And I don't see how they get that in, to be honest with you.
I'm not going there, Judge.
No, I don't think he's going there. He's going in, I suppose he's going in, you want to get in the fact that a mentor of Mr. Barisone's was banned for life from the sport he loved.
2 days before the shooting.
2 days before the shooting.
And what
Isn't that relevant
relevance-
to Mr. Barisone's state of mind?
No. What relevance is that? Someone else being banned?
And then DCP&P shows up at his house? You don't think that's relevant? That his mentor 2 days before got a lifetime ban for sexual misconduct, and then DCP&P shows up?
No, Judge.
Well, everything else you say goes to his state of mind. Why shouldn't
And
this,
everything
if it's a
else is-
stressor?
Everything else has been rejected, basically.
No, it's not. Just your manner of trying to get it in has been rejected.
And it's hearsay, Judge. How's he going to get any of this in? Which witness has the personal firsthand knowledge of this ban?
Well, the defendant, I suppose. Do you have information that the defendant had conversations with this witness? He can elicit it as a defendant's statement if he knew about the ban.
He has a phone record that he called them, that's it. No taped conversation, no email, no text message.
Well, you just said that there was an expression of condolence on the part of Mr. Barisone.
Basically, that's what Mr. Morris said, Judge, not Mr. Barison.
How do you get this in that the defendant
Judge, I believe
knew
the testimony-
about the lifetime ban?
I believe the testimony from Ms. Gray, which wasn't objected to when she testified, was that this was explosive news in the equestrian community when it happened. I would have to go back to my notes to look at that, but she said it was something that everyone was talking about. My recollection is that she said that she discussed it with the defendant, and that the defendant knew who Judge Morris was and knew about that. Again, my recollection, or my anticipation rather, is that Mr. Harden will testify to that. I, again, can recall Ms. Gray and show her the text message where she sends the text message that says, to Justin, Mr. Harden, Michael just talked to George on August 5th, 2019. So I don't want to lead the court to believe that I'm speculating about whether they had these conversations.
But that would be hearsay too.
How do we know what was said?
But it's, again, I'm not trying to bring in all of the particulars or the specifics. I have no intent, I think I have a good faith argument to argue. As Your Honor just said, that individual was given a lifetime ban for sexual assault. The defendant jumps to a conclusion when DCP&P shows up there that Lauren Kanarek has called DCP&P on him and reported him for sexual assault, and 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later, he's trying to kill her. That obviously goes to his state of mind, his motivation. So it's not hearsay. It goes to show directly the effect that it had on him. He finds that out, and the moment DCP&P gets on scene, he's going to load a gun, get a gun, and kill somebody.
Your Honor, he objected to the question as to what DCP said.
I know, but,
So-
well, is a DCP&P worker going to testify?
I anticipate she's going to testify, and I anticipate
But
she's
I'm not-
going to testify that she was not there to investigate a report of sexual assault. Again, the defendant jumped to that conclusion because of this report about George Morris. It was all over every equestrian website, newspaper. It was on all kinds of news outlets.
So if his friend killed somebody, Judge, that's...
Oh, Mr. Belinkus, you put in the defendant's state of mind.
Correct,
You put that in.
absolutely.
Are you saying that learning that your mentor was banned from the sport of, or equestrian activities had no effect on Mr. Barisone? Or didn't have, not even that, didn't have the potential to affect his fragile state of mind at that time?
No, I don't think so, Judge. There's nothing that, he never indicated that to anyone, to any of the doctors, the state's doctors, the defense doctors, you know, that
Well,
was never...
that doesn't mean it's not relevant because he didn't indicate it to a doctor. There may be other things, and doctors can be cross-examined on things. Did he know about this? Did you know about this?
What did he know, Judge? That he
I
was
don't
banned,
know.
that he was banned? What are the circumstances?
Well, it's a lifetime ban 2 days before. I think it arguably goes to his state of mind, his mental state at that time. Now, I'm not sure whether getting into the specifics of it, especially because of all the information so far about Ms. Kanarek notifying Safe Sport, and Ms. Gray and Mr. Barisone contacting Safe Sport, and sending 759 pages in August to Safe Sport. All that's part of the case. And if Mr. Barisone's state of mind is an issue here, whether it affects his state of mind, I don't know. I have no idea. But I think it's an event of some notoriety that your mentor is banned for life from the sport. And here comes DCP&P confronting them. That may certainly impact how Mr. Barisone reacted. Maybe he saw him going the same way, the state will argue. Maybe he believed he was going to be banned now because of safe sports involved, like his mentor, and ruin his life.
Judge, these are investigations that literally take years. The allegations with Mr. Morris had to do with an allegation of 50 years prior to that. It's completely different.
It's not, has nothing to do with the
It
investigation.
does if he's aware of it, Judge.
It's this defendant learning about it.
If Mr. well.
It's this defendant, he learned about it. Ms. Gray said that. This witness is going to say the same thing that he learned about it.
Judge, I'm also conceding that I'm not going to get into the particulars of that, because I think that would require getting into what specifically did the defendant know versus didn't. What I think is indisputable from all of the evidence and from the witnesses is that the defendant knew about the suspension, knew about the lifetime ban. That's the fact that I intend to elicit, not the circumstances underlying.
And again, Judge, you excluded me getting from Mary Haskins Gray the fact that a complaint to Safe Sport was in fact filed against her, and she was exonerated. And again.
And we're not getting into the but this is,
Exonerated
but
ban.
Mr. Belinkus, the reason why I banned that is because the result as it pertained to Ms. Gray has absolutely zero relevance
How about his state of mind,
to
Judge?
this defendant's state of mind.
How about when he's told about Mr. Morris getting a lifetime ban, and then he sees Ms. Gray, which basically, Judge, were the exact same allegations. He was included in that complaint to Safe Sport. So she's cleared. He should have absolutely no concern about any complaint being filed against Safe Sport.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know
again,
what his concern was. Again,
The problem is, Judge, you wouldn't let me get into what the complaint was with Mary Haskins. It was
Right.
with Mary
Because
Haskins
you asked it about her state of mind, not his.
and Barisone.
No, you didn't.
No.
No, you
Judge,
didn't. You didn't ask that, Mr. Belinkus. You didn't bring that up. You're bringing it up now, but you didn't bring it up then. And the reason why I ruled it out was because it pertained to the ruling against her. That's how the question was asked. And I said it's not relevant. Whatever the ruling was about her is not relevant.
Okay, for
And I
the-
even mentioned the defendant's state of mind is at issue. And you didn't bring up at that time that the complaint was about him as well.
Because I didn't think the court would consider bringing up a lifetime ban of someone else that has nothing to do, I submit, to this case.
I think it does. It's, you are bringing in the fact, the whole issue, and you mentioned before here, is the defendant's state of mind. All right? And the state thinks that this may have impacted his state of mind. And the jury may think the same thing.
And again, I understand the court's ruling.
All right,
and
I understand your position. That's my ruling. It comes in, not the misconduct, not the nature of it, but just the fact that Mr. Barisone learned 2 days before this incident that his mentor received a lifetime ban from Safe Sport.
And again, now that you've ruled this way, I'm asking the court to allow me to ask Ms. Gray what the results were with regards to the complaint against her from Safe Sport. The exact same complaint was made against Michael Barisone. And I submit, if one is relevant.
Who made those complaints?
Lauren Kanarek, Judge. Against
If you want to
Barisone.
call her in your case, you can call
Judge,
her in your
that
case.
was also after the shooting. This was at some point after the shooting,
What
so it
was?
would not have affected
What was?
the Safe Sport ruling.
Well,
But
then
the-
it doesn't have
so it
relevance. It
absolutely
doesn't,
has
then,
no effect
my
on
whole
his
issue is as it pertains to the defendant's state of mind at the time of the shooting, not what happened after the fact.
Judge, so you know, the complaint was made before the shooting.
The results, but we're talking about the results. What relevance is it if it came in a day after, or a month after, or 2 months after? It couldn't have affected the defendant's state of mind because the incident already happened. I mean, that's abundantly clear. So we'll let it in. Let's bring, all right, I'm going to take a quick break and then we'll address that issue that I brought up.
Fighting Senator, when I report for minutes.
Yeah, correct.
I don't want the lady sitting.